Day 4 here in the BVIs, the final day of racing at the 44 Cup Nanny Cay, and the relentless easterly trade winds that have delivered top-end sailing all week finally seems to have eased for today's final. Let's go straight into the action. We're at the start of race 7. It's a lighter wind day today, and all the boats are very even coming into this start. There's quite a few who like this committee boat end, one of which is Aleph. How are they going to wind up on this start? I know the far end is PRO Maria's boat, doing a good job there. There's an individual recall flag up though. Who's it going to be? A good start from Aleph and then Peninsula at the committee boat end of the line. There's already one boat as well tacking up, and unfortunately for PRO Maria's, they're over the line and have to go back yet again. That's the second one we've seen from them. It's been all about Aleph up this beat though. They've sailed well consistently and they're leading into the top mark. Tactician Lepic doing a lovely job here of picking the way through, and Hughes Lepic, the helmsman and the owner of the boat, superb job getting the boat down underneath the rig. In this slightly lighter winds today, it's much closer. The margins of lead have been much smaller, but that means that 3, 4, and this is 3 Peninsula and 4 CRF at the moment are coming in such tight proximity that it leaves some gaps open as they go behind. Aqua ducking down inside CRF failure into a low mode inside them. Already though, the leaders are jibing off. They like the long jibe on port out of that wind mark. So as we come towards the bottom of the first run on race 7, there's been a favouritism to go towards the left looking downwind, and that probably is because there's a bit clearer wind coming down the big channel between all these islands. The islands you can see in the far distance cause some disturbance to the wind, and going nearer to that on that side seems to be compressing a little bit, slightly better. The teams, there's been a wind shift as well. The teams coming in down here, they're in a good letdown on starboard jibe now. So they've had a letdown on port and now coming in here, letdown on starboard. The team from France, Hughes Lepic, and the Aleph team rounding nicely, positioning the boat well for the forthcoming upwind. Looks like possibly there's a bit of a right shift here on the breeze. Oh no, they're just winding up on angle now, and the second boat round's just coming in to that starboard rounding mark there, coming up on the breeze, turning up well, but leaving a bit of a gap there. That's going to give some space to the boat in third, and that boat in third, it's Charisma in second. The boat in third is a lovely downwind here from Team Peninsula, one of their better races so far this regatta, and that's good for them. They're building nicely. And who's now next? It's Chris Bake and the team on Team Aqua coming out of the leeward mark here and holding on starboard jibe. These 3 boats going out on starboard, they obviously think there's a starboard lift out of these leeward gates. And actually, when we look across the screen now, on the right is Aleph. They are also keen to be on starboard. They've tacked onto starboard, having done 150 on port, and they want to get the right-hand shift. There's a right-hand lift coming down the race course for them. The other boats, there's still 3, 4 boats still trying to get down to the leeward mark. So massive separation on big differences in wind pressure on this race compared to what we saw in the last few days. Up the beat though, it's the 2 boats in the front of the screen here, Aleph and Charisma, that really are sailing smoothly well and have picked the beat pretty nicely. Aleph have just covered reasonably nicely on Charisma, and the tactician Lepic there just pointing the angle he wants. The skipper, Hughes Lepic, to be able to angle the boat at as they come out of this leeward mark. It's J2 weather today. It's not quite as windy as it has been, so therefore they're keeping the sail up downwind, but when they hoist, they drop it a little bit to get the kite to set easy. So as we pan further back into the fleet, Peninsula are going to come in 3. It looks like there's Team Aqua in 4, and 5 and 6 here are Team Nika and then Team Gomera. It's been a really tricky and interesting beat. Some snakes and ladders out there for sure, but the guys in the first 3 are making it look pretty straightforward and pretty easy. John Bassadoni there in a really solid locked-in position, steering his boat really nicely around that rounding and onto the good angle for the downwind. 2 boats still going upwind here, Nika and Gamera. And then further back, there are a couple of boats that have overlaid the inner mark into the Wilmer mark. And those 2 boats, they've taken a massive penalty up this beat. The left-hand side on that beat really wasn't so good. And those couple of boats just dropping back a huge amount. As the starboard tack boat comes into the Wilmer mark, I think it's Team Aqua has to tack bow forward. Or maybe isn't it? It's Team Calero just having to tack bow forward on Team Artemis. Calero Maria's obviously had to go back at the start, so it's gone well to be 3 boats from the back in here, coming around the top mark here with 2 boats thundering down behind them, trying to press them as much as possible for their rounding. The kite heli going up with the person on the windward winch, tailing that kite heli super fast. And as we look down the race course here, you can see by the guys right at the front of the fleet, there's dark patches on the water, and that breeze looks like it's coming up a little bit here. The boats in the forefront of the screen now, as we look back up the race course, have decided to take a starboard jibe shift towards the bottom of the race course. That shift to the starboard jibe benefit is really helping let them down towards the leeward gate into the finish. But there really in this race are 2 standout performing boats. Team Aleph leading and Team Charisma in second. So as they come into the finish, it's Aleph who locks in that first place result for race 7, the last day here in Nanny Cay for the 44 Cup opening event of the season. So first result of the day, great solid result for them. Equally for Team Charisma, that's a really solid result too. Second in that race helps their overall scores. So those 2 boats really getting nip and tuck as we come into these last couple of races of the regatta. Just running into a drop and dropping the spinnaker nicely, no pressure now, trying to just make it easy, making sure the kite doesn't get stretched or distorted at all. But as we look up at the fleet still coming down, 2 boats approaching in from the left-hand side of the screen here. 1 boat coming in from the finish. They held the furthest left boat out, and that boat's really, the furthest left boat is really pressed up. Who's the 3rd person going to be coming across this finish line? It's going to be between them. It's Peninsula. Peninsula's going to nail 3rd place. Great run from them. But coming in really super hot here, overlaid on that lay line, is Team Aqua. They made a huge gain down this last dead run here. Huge gain. So 3rd for them, with Nika going to take 4th, with Aqua just getting down. You have to be careful at spinnaker. They don't want to flap it at all, because if it flaps, it's quite possible it could tear in half. Or are they going to hit the mark? No, they just come round the mark and get their 4th place position. With the rest of the fleet coming down in here, again, it's super close with everywhere in the fleet between the little groups that end up racing together. 1 boat on port here coming in from the left-hand side, 3 boats coming in from starboard, making it super tough coming in at the bottom here. Team Nika coming in 4th in that race helps them with their overall standing as well. They're in the fight for the podium along with Charisma and Aleph, and it was Artemis, I think, that got 6th there with almost a photo finish for the next 2 boats in 7th and 8th. So after that race, a great result for Team Aleph. Now we're looking into race 8, which is going to help lock in those overall point scores really well for the final race of the day. Race 8, and it was just before the start here. Team Sierra Veda really want the committee that end of the start line, and again, very typically Team Nika are there too. So there's 2 boats quite close up to the starboard end. As they really approach into the line here, it's Nika really tight above. There's a boat 17 at the bottom there, the Team Aleph, they want the left. They obviously feel like the left-hand side with Team Peninsula is the side to be at. Team Nika, they're really vulnerable there. I wonder whether there's a possibility they might be an OCS. But a nice start from Team Sierra Veda there with lots of space around them. They're going to be able to hold all the way to the left-hand side of the racecourse if they want to. So as we come to the top, it's actually been the guys who've started down towards the pin. Team Charisma here coming in to the top mark with a lead. That's them in first. That's a very important result for them. Andy Horn, a tactician, working hard, trimming the mainsail on, but also pointing to Nico Poons, the helmsman there, about where he wants him to point the boat. Hughes, Lepic in Aleph, and the team Aleph coming round in second there, with then team Aqua in third, with and Nika in fourth. So the boats all coming in now in this slightly lighter wind than the previous days, with a lot more tight jostling positions as they're coming into these roundings. Artemis coming round here, just trying to get the spinnaker out, with Team CRF even though they had a good start, not had the greatest of beats on that time there. Already we're looking down the race course. There's a jibe out from Team Aleph, taking an opportunity to jibe out onto port and get into the left. But what are we seeing? Has a lot of the fleet all wanted the left, looking downwind. They all wanted to come into the left-hand side for probably more pressure and a little bit of a shift coming in the top of the beat. And now as they come into the bottom here, it's the boat that continued on, Team Charisma, that's been a bit punchy and sailed totally separate from the rest of the fleet, but they've sailed separate from the fleet and they've sailed in clear wind. And that boat actually is Team Artemis. So most of the fleet jibed off and went down the right-hand side, the side furthest to right in this picture, and Team Artemis sailed down towards the to the shore base side here and made a massive gain. So they're rounding in first, equal. So that actually they were first, with Charisma in second and Aleph in third. As we come out of this beat here, to me it looks like it's a bit right shifted. So Artemis doing well there, got a really nice lane out of the leeward mark here, coming out on starboard, and heading towards what looks like quite a nice gust. But as they get around that mark there, they look like they're heading a little bit, and actually the shift's going back left as that gust is hitting in, and the boat and both Artemis and Aleph got to that pressure and now tacking up to be in this big lefty. That kind of helps a little bit to them then. Artemis is inside the left-hand shift. That's going to be a big advantage for them relative to Charisma. And Charisma came round the starboard rounding mark and headed straight out on port tack. Hasn't been good enough for Artemis though. Both boats in first and second at the top mark here are the boats that got onto port early. Charisma here made a bit of a jump on Team Artemis. So it's Charisma first, Artemis second. It's going to be Aleph in third, and a big gain for the Slovenian team, Team Sierra Veda. Huge gain for them on that last upwind, coming into this wind mark here in fourth place from being a lot deeper at the first mark, putting the spinnakers up. And for this time, coming out of the wind mark here, the teams are all seem to be a little bit happier to hold on starboard, not so desperate to get to jibe off. And as we look back in the fleet, we've got Team Aqua here, dropped a little bit of distance relative to the others, but going into this downwind, they'll be looking to try and maintain their position relative to the guys behind and make a bit of a jump to the guys in front. So as we look down the race course now, a big gust just with the leader, Team Charisma. The boats in third and fourth. I think they're in a slightly different position relative to the big gust on water, and Artemis and Team Sierra Veda have both jibed off. They're jibed off. They obviously think there's a better angle on port jibe. So what are we seeing? As we're looking up the race course, the puffy clouds has really started to dictate some of the influences of gusts on the water. And we look at these boats racing down here, we've got some very quite different approaches on tactics. You know, taking the puffs, positioning for the phases of the change and shift, and trying to make sure you're keeping the boat up at angle and really fast through these waves as well at the same time. So 3 boats coming down into the line here, super close. This is the reason that we love the 44 Cup and the 44 racing. It is so close, even through a whole race like that. Look at that. First, second from Aleph, and those 2 guys go into the last race today tied on 19 points each. Who's going to make it between the next 2 boats? It's Sierra Veda, I think, at the finish boat, at the committee boat, from Artemis in 4, and then those guys are putting in some really good performances. CREF a much better result in that last race than their first race today, 3rd in that one, and then also a good race for Artemis in 4. Looking back at the finishing positions, Aqua secure 5, and a rapidly planing boat coming down at the committee boat there, just missing out on getting 5th place, coming in 6th, with the next Artemis boat coming down into the finish line here in 6th. Yeah, 6th place with Team Gomera there. So race 8 really has put the cat among the pigeons. We now go into race 9, the last race of the regatta, with 2 boats tied on equal points. 19 points each as we approach into this last race of the day. And wow, Team Charisma and Team Aleph have sailed absolutely stellar performances so far through this week. And we've got an absolute ding-dong about to happen for the start of this race. So as we come into the start of race 9, the last race of the 44 Cup in BVI's for 2025, this is a full match race. There are 2 boats vying to win the regatta, and it is starting off with a head-to-head. Charisma and Aleph. Charisma circling, jibing now, coming up from port onto starboard. Heading towards Aleph on port. Aleph on port, desperately trying to get into the starting line, but they're high and above Team Charisma, and they're at pace. They're almost playing and going down here. Charisma want to lock onto their coattails here to push as hard as they can the Aleph boat just in front of them towards the encroaching fleet. The fleet on starboard coming towards the line are coming towards the line in their last approach. We're just inside the last minute here, and we're hoping, the Aleph guys will be hoping that there's enough opportunity for them to be able to use the other boats to enable them to tack up onto starboard without there being a problem for Charisma. Charisma's game here, the last boat nearest the screen here, is all about trying to come high now, to sail up or close hook as possible, to close the gauge to the boat that's just tacked in front of them. Aleph, tack. Charisma, close right up underneath them. Tack close underneath them. Charisma have to get the boat going. Aleph are already at pace. Charisma going high and slow here. High and slow, close the gauge, limit Aleph's ability to accelerate the boat off the line. Charisma have control. They have the ability to pull their acceleration whenever they want, to trigger pull whenever they want. Charisma are holding the boats high. The rest of the fleet are trying to gauge their last approach into the line. And the boat in 1, 2, 3 from the right-hand end, as we look at the screen, looks like they've got a nice launch here. But all Charisma, Aleph, and the 3rd boat from the right are all early, and they do a little dip and then slingshot up at the line. So it's a great start from Team Charisma right towards the pin here. Not quite such a good start from Aleph, having been controlled by Charisma, and Aleph are back by half a length. That's going to compromise their lane there, and they're going to struggle to hold a lane out to probably what's the favoured left-hand side of the racecourse. The boat 3rd up, they've got a great start. They've got a really nice lane there, but they're not quite as far forward as the 4th boat up from the camera here. That was Team CRF Ada, and they've got a lovely start holding off that start line. But what does that mean as you come to the top mark? Well, it's on the left of the screen, Team Charisma. In the middle of the screen is Team Nika, the bow 10. Team Nika have sailed a stellar upwind on this one, and they're leading at the top mark. Great result from them. They're still fighting hard for a podium position, trying to turn the boat down. They've got the gold wheels on because they're the series leaders at the moment. But Charisma, they're having a regatta of their lives at the moment. They're already kite up and pulling before the boat that led them round. Aleph coming around as well. They're desperately trying to maintain their good position here, but they're in 4 at the moment with Team Syria Vader from Slovenia inside them in 3, and Team Artemis in 5, pressing high with Peninsula above. There's a luff from Artemis here to hold Peninsula, but that's just giving some advantage and space for Aleph and Sierra Voda. Sierra Voda don't like the dirty wind they're setting in, so they're jibing out now. And as we see that, the wind's all going a bit fickle. The boats decide to jibe out, and we're riding here, bow view from Team Charisma. That was a great move from them, jibing out early. And here we see a lovely approach into a jibe here, turning the boat. Boom's being held out, kite comes across, the main sets. The kite has a tiny little flap, but then it's setting well. Ross Halcrow on the trim on this boat here, America's Cup, many to his credit, doing a lovely job of keeping the boat and the kite trim, absolutely pulling the boat downwind as fast as possible. That's helped them. They're going to come into this leeward gate here with plenty of speed, a bit of separation, and an ability to take the right-hand rounding and the route they want to go up the beat on starboard tack out to leeward mark. They've probably looked upwind and seen there's more pressure on that side. Meanwhile, there's a couple of boats coming down on port jibe behind them as Charisma drop spinnaker. One boat's laying down, and that's Team Nika, and the other boat, Team Aleph, still have to jibe, and they're jibing and dropping the kite. As the kite got in, yes, the kite's gone in. Nika are trying to sail super deep to keep some space for Aleph to go around the mark. Meanwhile, Siref are coming in at pace on port from having laid into that left-hand side of the screen at the moment. And they're going to come around. They're going to sneaky round in 3 here. So that's Charisma round on starboard jibe, out on starboard tack, upwind. And that's followed by Siref Voda. So it's Charisma from Aleph, from Siref, from Nika. 5th round is Team Peninsula. And then 6th round is Team Aqua. You see the trimmer there on the jib, the big J2 being trimmed on hard. So you go out on the breeze as hard as possible. We've got 3 boats going out on port here. We've got 5 boats going out on starboard. The leading boat that's being come out of on starboard, they're tacking up. There's obviously a bit of pressure they wanted to sail into, and that's helped them. They've managed to come out of that left-hand side at the right time. That boat was number 15. You see them coming into the top mark here. It is, again, Team Charisma having a superb regatta. Nico Poons turning the boat down. Andy Horton, tactician, giving him the angle that he wants to sail. Looking back, making sure they just nailed that hoist. Kite's still got to go up to the top a little bit. The pitman will be working super hard to get that to the top of the rig. And meanwhile, we've got Team Nika, lovely upwind from them too. That puts them into 2nd solid with Team Siref. Siref came around the starboard round mark at the bottom. So they've made the left-hand side of the beat work a little bit better. Aleph, I think they're coming round in 5. So they've dropped a little bit on the right-hand side of that race course. But right now, this regatta and this race is all about Team Charisma. They have sailed this race absolutely spectacularly. They're speeding on starboard here, surfing these waves towards the finish line and towards a win in this regatta. They just have to rescue 1 more jibe, possibly 2, but for sure 1 more jibe to lay down into the finish. But as they come down here, it looks a little lighter. There are definitely light patches in the breeze. And the boat in 3rd, which is Sierra Voda, they've jibed out onto port. They want to take a lane of pressure on port to keep them in the veins of pressure that they think were beneficial. Meanwhile, so Charisma, the boat furthest away from the camera, they've covered the left-hand shift that Sierra took, and the boat in 3rd here, the boat in 2nd here is Nika. Now, so the boats have generally wanted the side the camera's on, the left-hand side of the race course coming down here, come across the middle in a decent lane, jibe back and have a lovely lane on starboard down into the finish. It's going to be Charisma coming in on starboard here with a 10 length lead at least from Team Nika. Team Nika sailing a fantastic race as well here, and this is hopefully for them going to be good enough for a podium. I think that is third place, second place, definitely going to put them in really good shape for the overall positions at the end of the regatta. For sure, this race with Aleph back duking it out in 4th, 5th place is for sure going to secure the victory for Team Charisma. A great result for them in the first regatta of the year for the 44 Cup 2025. They're coming down into the finish. There's not much long to go here, but as we look back in the fleet, the boats have all sailed what is to us the right hand side looking upwind here side. They're coming in on really pressed up, loads of a really good angle. The Charisma team, they cross the line, they know the points, they know the finishing position that they've just secured has nailed them the regatta win. What a spectacular way to finish the regatta. Winning the last race with a match race prior to the start and securing that regatta overall win from Team Nika. Team Nika, that puts them for sure in the podium position. And Team Sierra Vader, is this position in third here going to be enough to jump to get them into a podium position? I don't think so. I think this means they're going to be 4. If it is that Team Aleph can make sure they come in a reasonable spot here, who's it going to be between the next couple of boats? It looks like it's Artemis coming down now just into the finish, with Team Aleph coming through on the line there to have 5th place. So that secures the podium positions of the regatta. That means at the end of the regatta we have a win for Team Charisma, a 2nd place for a spectacular result as well for Team Aleph, and a 3rd place overall for a solid and very consistent race series from Team Nika, within 4th place Team Sierra Vader.
I just want to say thanks to our whole team. You know, starts with Nico, but all these guys fought their hearts out this week. You know, the boat handling was always astounding, and we were going pretty well through the water. So it was just a great week for the team. Starting with the boss behind me here. He had a great time ripping downwind. Just an awesome place. Thank you very much.
The event was amazing, great sailing. You know, a lot of wind in the first 3 days, slightly less today. But you know, we had a really good time. We really enjoyed it tremendously. It was very, very close until the end. We were on equal points with Nico Poons and his team until the last regatta. And you know, as usual in the RC44, it ended up being the last event, the last race, and the last beat. And unfortunately, it turned out that Nico won, but we are very, very pleased to be 2nd.
So the 44 Cup finishes in Nanny Cay, the first event of the 2025 season. Congratulations to all the teams, and looking forward to the next event in the series.